Skandiviti, founder Acharya of Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Samavata Bhakta Vrinda ki, Harinama Sankirtan ki, Krantaraj Pada ki, Danitai Gauda ki Manam. All glories to the Son of the devotees, all glories to the Son of the devotees, all glories to the Son of the devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatmirandasya Yananjanasvarakaya Lakshadamritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadam Vipamma Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vikam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaditam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalitam Sri Visakanditam Scha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamani Vanshakapatibhisya Kripasindhu Jaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. For reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality, Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the Supremost Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Preshabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiti. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed and practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, whose praise with the transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable sat. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Shakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreya Sayalokasya Dhanyam Swasthaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literature, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all useful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda
Shiva Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare
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 Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Mukhaṁ Karoti Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Mukhaṁ Karoti Vācālam Langayate Yatripātamaham Vande Sri Gurum Dinataram Yatripātamaham Vande Sri Gurum Dinataram. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our new location for Bhagavatam class in nature, fully, completely. And we're continuing actually the following verse from the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, text number 3. Right? This is the chapter entitled The First Step in God Realization. So text 3, Vidraya Riyante Naktam
Naktam
Vyavayena
Yavayena
cha
cha
va
va
vayah
vayah
diva
diva
charte haya
charte haya
rajan
rajan
kutumba
tumba
bharanena
haranena
va
va
nidraya riyate naktam
nidraya riyate naktam
vyavayena chavavayah
vyavayena chavavaya
diva charte haya rajan
diva charte haya rajan
kutumba bharanena va
tumba bharanena va
nidraya riyate naktam
nidraya riyate naktam
vyavayena chavavayah
vyavayena chavavaya
Vivachate haya rajan
vivachate haya raja
kutumba bharane nava
kutumba bharanena va
nidraya riyate naktam
nidraya riyate naktam
vyavayena chavavayah
vyavayena chavavaya
Vivachate haya rajan
vivachate haya raja
kutumba bharane nava
kutumba bharanena nidraya riyate naktam
Nidraya
Hri Naktam
vyavayena chavavaya
Vibhavena Chavaha
vivachate haya raja
Divacharte Haya Rajana
kutumba bharanena va
Kutumba Bharaneva
nidraya riyate naktam
Nidraya Hiryai Naktam
vyavayena chavavaya
Vivayena Chavahaya
divachate haya rajan
Divacharte Haya Rajan
kutumba bharanena va
Kutumba Bharaneva Nidraya Hiryai Naktam
nidraya riyate naktam
Vivaya Vachane Vavaha
vyavayena chavavaya
Divachartaya Rajan
divachate haya rajan
Kutumba Bharane Vevaha
kutumba bharanena va
nidraya
nidraya
by sleeping
by sleeping
riyate
riyate
wastes
waste
naktam
naktam
night
Night
yavayena
vyavayena
sex indulgence
Sex indulgence
cha
Cha
also
Also
va
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 either
Either
vayaha
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 duration of life
Duration of life
diva
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 days
Days
cha
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 and
and
artha
Artha
economic
Economic
ihaya
Vihaya
development
Development
rajan
Rajan
o king
O King
kutumba
Kutumba
family members
Family members
bharanena
Bharanena Maintaining
va
Va
either
Either
translation and purport by the Bangladesh C.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
The lifetime of such an envious householder is passed at night either in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime either in making money or maintaining family members. Kindly repeat after me. The lifetime
the lifetime
of such an envious householder
of such an envious householder
is passed at night
is passed at night
either in sleeping
either in sleeping
or in sex indulgence,
or in sex indulgence
and in the daytime
and in the day
either in making money
either in making money
or maintaining family members.
or maintaining family members.
Report. The present human civilization is primarily based on the principles of sleeping and sex indulgence at night, and earning money in the day, and spending the same for family maintenance.
Sorry for disturbance.
Yeah, no problem.
This was a good one to sit.
Yes. Okay, I will repeat this one
Sorry,
sentence, no problem. The present human civilization is primarily based on the principles of sleeping and sex indulgence at night, and earning money in the day and spending the same for family maintenance. Such a form of human civilization is condemned in the Bhagavad school. Because human life is a combination of a matter and a spirit soul, the whole process of Vedic knowledge is directed at liberating the spirit soul from the contamination of matter. The knowledge concerning this is called Atma Tattva. Those men who are too materialistic are unaware of this knowledge and are more inclined to economic development for material enjoyment. Such materialistic men are called karmis, or fruitive laborers, and they are allowed regulated economic development or association of women for sex indulgence. Those who are above the karmis, that is, the gyanis, yogis, and devotees, are strictly prohibited from sex indulgence. The karmis are more or less devoid of Atmagyan or Atmatattva knowledge, and as such their life is spent without spiritual profit. The human life is not meant for hard labor, for economic development, nor is it meant for sex indulgence like that of the dogs and hogs. It is specially meant for making a solution to the problems of material life and the miseries thereof. So the karmis waste their valuable human life by sleeping and sex indulgence at night, and by laboring hard in the daytime to accumulate wealth, and after doing so, they try to improve their standard of materialistic life. The materialistic way of life is described herein in a nutshell, and how foolishly men waste the boon of human life is described as follows, which is for tomorrow's class. Reading again the translation. The lifetime of such an envious householder is passed at night either in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime either in making money or maintaining family members. So yesterday the subject matter was brought up by Shukdev Goswami regarding two types of householders, Grihamedi and Grihastha. There's a major difference, of course, between Grihamedi and Grihastha. Grihamedi are especially described in this verse, that they're being devoid of Atmagyan, Atmatattva, being devoid of knowledge of the soul, their primary preoccupation, and that's the general state of affairs in general society, especially in our modern day society. And because it is, practically speaking, all pervading, all of the what we call developing or developed countries, they are considered developed based on how much of material wealth, prosperity, etc., like that, to the neglect, unfortunately, of what is meant to be primary, and this is mentioned in a Bhagavatam, of course, what is meant to be the primary focus. And there's the differences being made here actually between, let's say, Gyanis or Yogis or Bhaktas. These are the different categories that we find in society. Karmis, Gyanis, Yogis, and then Bhaktas. So mostly those who are Karmis, they will be on this lower level of consciousness, and life will be very complex, very competitive also, and because of relating on that platform, there will be all kinds of we could say deficiencies created in terms of relationship, because we're competing on the body platform primarily, in terms of abusing or exploiting nature, the natural resources, things we talked about, for example, which if we look at the last century has reached such a height that the planet is in danger. Yeah. So Vedic culture especially trains not only Gyanis, Yogis and Bhaktas, but also householders, because in the Vedic culture it is only those who are householders who are allowed more material kind of facilities, and especially who are allowed to have sex life. But even within the Vedic culture, sex life or any activities of sense gratification needs to be regulated. Actually, ultimately, our problem, all of us in the material world, due to what we call ahankara, due to identifying with this body, and due to having a natural need for wanting to be happy, for wanting to enjoy. I always remember this one question that was asked to Srila Prabhupada many years ago by a reporter. In many places, Prabhupada would be interviewed and whatnot, and devotees would always listen to hear, what's he going to answer this time? Because sometimes the same question he would answer differently. So nobody knew, really, So this time, a reporter was asking, Swamiji, what is the goal of life? What is the primary goal of life? And Prabhupada answered very nicely, the primary goal of life is to enjoy. He was taken aback a little bit. The idea is that by nature we are pleasure-seeking living entities. And because we are not having knowledge of the soul, knowledge of the spiritual world, knowledge of what is called transcendental rasa. Rasa is of two kinds. There's material rasa and there's spiritual rasa. We cannot live without rasa because it's our nature to be interacting and to be, we are, Prabhupada calls it the birthright. The birthright of every living entity is to be happy. But when we are devoid of proper knowledge, of the soul, of Atma Tattva, then we obviously have only one avenue to seek happiness, to seek enjoyment. And that's primarily in making money, economic development, dharma, artha, kama, and sense gratification of different forms. The strongest and the most difficult to give up actually being sex life. Now, we had discussed a little bit sometime back, I think you might recall, about what is called, in the spiritual world, there's, our acharyas speak about psychology of sex life. Because actually, Krishna, he is the source of all happiness, source of all enjoyment, and whatever it is that we are seeking for here in the material world, but unfortunately on the bodily platform, the original pure happiness, the original pure emotions, we could say, and feelings, they exist in their pure form in the spiritual world. And when we are not knowing about this and when we're not practicing, then we are stuck, so to speak. We have to act on this, we could call it lower platform, because that level of activity is not only in the human form, but is also common in the animal kingdom. You know, animals are also seeking pleasure through eating and sex life and like that. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are the four primary activities of any species of life, including human species. The difference, the big difference for human is that we have the ability, because of developed consciousness, to rise above what is, let's say, simply mundane, and which really doesn't give us what we are seeking for. Yeah. So therefore, the importance of coming in contact with such transcendental knowledge, coming in contact with the recommended process, which is, especially as we discussed yesterday, the whole science of bhakti, because it's only by developing in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna calls it, the higher taste, higher consciousness, a higher happiness, spiritual happiness. Only then one can give up the lower taste, isn't it? If you're eating a plate of food and somebody brings some nice gulab jamun, generally you'll go for the gulab jamun and you'll leave the other things aside. Yeah. So we are all pleasure-seeking living entities, and unfortunately, when we are not having the proper information or the proper association or the proper living condition, then we are by nature, actually, the modes of material nature are such that we are forced. We're forced actually by nature. Majority of people are acting, people think they are free, but actually no one is free because everyone is dictated. The gunas are extremely strong. You cannot avoid the gunas. The only way to avoid the gunas or to overcome or transcend the modes of material nature is through this, not only the spiritual, but the devotional aspect. We talked about this also. The devotional aspect, which is bhakti, because bhakti is what awakens, helps us to awaken our original natural feelings, original natural relationship with Krishna. Ultimately, everyone is seeking relationship. People cannot live actually. People commit suicides very often because they don't have a friend or whatever, or because they lost a friend, or because a friend or a lover deceived them, etc. But when we come to know about the transcendental level and how Krishna, he is described as the source of all rasas, the source of all pleasure, the original. And when we begin to develop that consciousness, that understanding, then we can gradually, it's generally gradual. That's why householder life is meant to be, how old are you now?
54.
54.
Crossing over the
Prastha.
one prastha, yeah. Third stage.
Yeah, that whole system is there because your sons are grown up, maybe not yet married, but they're grown up. They're like, they don't run after you to kind of depend.
True.
It's nature's arrangement. Children grow up, they complete their studies, they get a job, then eventually they get married, most people. And then by Krishna's arrangement, after householder life, then one needs to, is recommended to take advantage of the, let's say, less responsibilities because children are no longer there, and our necessities are generally less if unless we're totally on the body platform. So in this way we can devote or give more time for spiritual activities. So that is actually the Vanaprastha stage, which can be taken together. Husband and wife can together actually decide to kind of retire more from family type of activities. Sometimes only the husband and the wife will be left in the care of the older children, like that. And if both do take Vanaprastha, then after some time the husband may decide to take sannyas, in which case, of course, he needs to bring back the wife at home, and with her consent, also
With mutual consent.
with her consent, with the consent of the wife, he should take sannyas, not like irresponsible.
On his own, yeah.
So like this we get a little bit of insight, and because in the Bhagavatam it speaks about a lot. I mean, just like yesterday with Peter, we were discussing how, right, the 4 pillars of dharma. So one of those pillars is tapasya, controlling our mind, controlling our senses, and the most difficult, of course, is the sex life. And that can only be regulated and eventually, in old age we have less need, less opportunity, less ability also. Although, because of the whole modern setup, people still in old age go to the clubs and whatnot, because they don't know anything else, and they have that need to enjoy or to be, So, Prabhupada sometimes would quote, because he would travel to so many places and he would get to see so many different nightclubs and this and that, because they're all over the place in the cities, and he would say, just see, people even in their 70s, they are paying so much money, just to get some sense gratification in the nightclub. So we need to keep hearing, and then we need to, according to our respective situation. Prabhupada would explain how in the Vedic culture, brahmacharis, vanaprastha and sannyas, by nature they are meant to be renounced. And grihastha, householder life, is like we could say, temporary concession. But if we become enamored or overly attached, then we cannot actually properly utilize the gift that we have received by having this human form of life, by which we can actually develop higher consciousness and bhakti in particular. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahitukam, brings about in a very automatic, natural way, as an effect, knowledge and natural detachment, jnanam and vairagya. So we don't have to endeavor separately if we focus nicely on regulated, what is called sadhana bhakti, as explained in the Nature of Devotion. Then slowly, gradually we can, we have about 5 minutes until the sun gets quite hot.
Yes. I was going to ask you, Maharaj, for you it is
Yeah, well, I happen to be in what you call the sunlight.
hot seat. Hot seat.
I'm in a hot seat,
They say morning sun is very good for Well, but I think 15 minutes is good for you. It will get it longer now.
Yeah, well, actually, the early rays, the early sun
The
rays
best is that one. Yeah.
are super excellent. Yeah,
Mm.
they have special shakti.
Right. Any questions from brahmacharis?
Prashna. The Prashna. Prashna is Sanskrit actually. So, how do you say? Question in Bahasa?
Pertanyaan. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
If they don't have question, I will ask something then.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's a question. Sometimes we have answers also, but just to reconfirm. So now, yeah, you mentioned yes. On the third stage of life, I am just wondering myself also that how to grow in a sustainable way where, of course, one is devotion to Krishna and increasing the sadhana. At the same time, responsibilities, yeah, one side you agree with you, it gets reduced. I realize now, one side, of course, responsibility towards the parents, which I was maybe more relaxed earlier, but now responsibility to my parents is coming, and still towards the wife. So, how to do it in a sustainable way? As you mentioned, the third is sannyasa is the last one, and the third level,
Vanaprastha.
vanapastra, yeah. So,
Which
what's the
means-
right way to do it, where it can be still done responsibly? You said, and it's still do in a intentional. So it is one is moving forward in that direction.
Well, every situation will be different,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? It's like you have parents. Although your children are grown up, they're still not yet married, not fully like settled, and you're like in the early stage of vanaprastha. So like one has to assess according to one's particular situation, and of course a lot depends on both individuals. In this case, I mean, in a family situation, when the kids are grown up, one has to look at you could say the understanding, the consciousness, and in both wife and husband, because they need to come to a common understanding, a common decision as to okay, how now we are in this particular stage of life, yeah, right? So how to go about it based on our particular situation, and of course, as I mentioned, it will vary, but the basic premise is the same, that it is that period of life where we should, well, by nature, the children being away from home, we have less responsibilities at home, and we should be finding more time to cultivate. Vanaprastha especially it's like coming back to brahmachari stage where one increases one's focus on spiritual activities. Very often those who take vanaprastha, they may visit, for example, more often holy places. The idea is that we know after the age of 50 is Krishna's, it's nature's arrangement, means Krishna's arrangement. Well, the body is starting to get older, and the signs of old age are actually an indication for us to get prepared for that eventual time where we have to leave this body. So these two levels, or these two stages rather, Vanaprastha and Sannyas, are especially meant to give that opportunity of becoming more absorbed. How one will do that will vary from one
Case to
situation
case.
to another, and that's why one needs to discuss, take, what is it, take an assessment of what responsibilities may still be there, and then try to understand the purpose of this particular stage of
Stage.
life. Yeah. In the Western world, they call very often what is it? Middle-age crisis.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
people
yeah.
have a hard time handling it,
Mhm.
especially if they stop working.
Right. Especially after retirement. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they've been busy, and people they've been interacting with people all these years, and then it's like they're not quite ready for being inactive. It's not that one should become inactive, but one needs to be maybe
Prioritize
more
different
more
things.
active towards spiritual kind of activities and whatnot, because we can't really, by nature, we are meant to be active. But so it's good to actually consult with people, devotees who are at that stage and who have had to face what you're facing. For example, okay, pretty well between the age of 50 and 60, one normally begins to kind of wind up. But that's not the case
Every
for
time.
many, because of the whole, I mean, politicians are still running for office at the age of 80 and whatnot.
Mm.
So, because actually, it is described in the Bhagavatam that family life is the most difficult to give up, because we've been conditioned for so many years, isn't it? Yeah. And also, for most people, what's most difficult to give up is actually sex life.
Yeah.
And unless one has taken up some practice and learned to become more controlled in terms of his mind and his senses, more regulated,
Right.
then it cannot just automatically generate.
True.
But
True. Yeah, on that matter, I realize that is, I agree with you, that is the toughest one. And but one is, I realize that sex indulgence also could be different levels. One is on the body level, and then is on the mind level.
yes,
So body level, even if you can regulate it at one level, fine, that is one success. But then to do it at mind level is a pure, then is the purity, right?
correct.
That is a much tougher.
yes. Ultimately, both need to be tackled.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
Because the more we have uncontrolled mind, then our senses will be tend to be out of control. But yeah, that is more difficult. But that's why the process that is especially recommended in the Bhagavatam is most conducive and makes it much easier to actually come to that level of being more controlling, more regulated, etc. Panas.
Thank you. Panas for you, Maharaj. You should.
Getting panas. Okay, terima kasih. Jai Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki. Oh.